The Forsaken Drift. The colony ship Eternal Dawn drifted through the empty void like a wounded whale in an ocean of stars. Atoll, once gleaming with the pride of Krillian engineering, now bore the scars of radiation burns and meteor impacts. Inside, the last 10,000 survivors of a once thriving civilization huddled in darkness, their bioluminescent skin flickering weakly as their energy reserves dwindled. Commander Vexera pressed her four-fingered hand against the command console, watching the power readings drop steadily toward zero. 3 months had passed since their home star had exploded without warning, vaporizing their world and the 14 billion souls who called it home. The Eternal Dawn had been on a routine supply run to their outer colonies when the supernova struck, sparing them from instant death, but condemning them to a slower fate. The Cosmic Federation's response had been swift and cruel. When Vexera's desperate plea for aid reached the Federation Council, their reply came encoded in the cold language of bureaucracy. Resource allocation analysis complete. Rescue operation deemed economically unfeasible. Species classification, non-essential. Recommendation, natural conclusion. In simpler terms, they had been written off. Left to die because saving them would cost too much. Vexera's second-in-command, Zalthor, approached with heavy steps. His usually vibrant blue skin had faded to a dull gray, matching the despair that hung over the ship like a shroud. "Commander, the younglings in Section 7 are crying again. We have no more nutrition gel to give them." The pain in his voice cut deeper than any blade. Krillian younglings needed constant nourishment to maintain their bioluminescence. Without it, they would fade into permanent darkness within days. Vexera had already watched dozens slip away, their parents singing the ancient songs of passing as their children's light dimmed forever. "What about the emergency reserves?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "Gone. Everything is gone. We have perhaps 48 hours of life support remaining." Vexera closed her eyes, feeling the weight of 10,000 lives pressing down on her shoulders. The Federation had abandoned them. Their allies had turned away. The universe itself seemed determined to erase the Krillian people from existence. "Send one final distress signal," she commanded, her voice barely above a whisper. "Not to the Federation. Send it everywhere. To the unknown regions, the wild sectors, anywhere someone might hear." Zalthor hesitated. "Commander, the wild sectors are home to primitive species, warlike races that haven't even achieved proper galactic status. The humans occupy those regions." "Then let the humans hear us," Vexera replied. "What do we have to lose?" The signal went out, a desperate cry into the cosmic dark. "This is the Krillian colony ship Eternal Dawn. We are dying. Our people are starving. Our children are fading. If anyone hears this, please, we need help. We have nothing to offer in return but our gratitude. Please." For 12 hours, there was only silence. Then, just as Vexera was preparing to power down the communications array to conserve their last drops of energy, a voice crackled through the speakers. It spoke in heavily accented galactic standard, the words rough but unmistakably warm. "Eternal Dawn, this is Captain Miguel Martins of the Earth cargo vessel Esperanza. We hear you, friends. We're 3 hours out from your position. Hold on. Help is coming." Vexera stared at the communications panel in disbelief. A human ship. The violent, primitive species that the Federation considered too dangerous for full membership. They were coming to help. "Captain Martinez," she responded, her voice shaking. We have nothing to trade. No resources to offer. The Federation has declared us non-essential." "Why would you?" "Because you asked," Martinez interrupted. "Because you need help. That's reason enough. Esperanza out." The next 3 hours passed in a blur of preparation and disbelief. When the human ship finally appeared on their sensors, Vexera was shocked by its appearance. The Esperanza was no sleek military vessel or advanced explorer. It was a battered cargo hauler, its hull patched with different metals, and its engines held together by what looked like prayers and determination. The docking procedure was rough but effective. When the airlock finally opened, Captain Martinez stepped through, followed by a crew of 20 humans. They carried crates and containers, their faces hidden behind breathing masks until they confirmed the atmosphere was safe. Martinez removed his mask, revealing a weathered face lined with wrinkles and marked by a salt and pepper beard. His eyes, though, were what caught Vexera's attention. They were kind. "Commander Vexera," he asked, extending his hand in the human gesture of greeting. She took it carefully, noting the strange warmth of his skin compared to her own cool touch. "Captain Martinez, we don't understand. The Federation said." "The Federation says a lot of things," Martinez replied with a shrug. "They said humans were too primitive to join, too violent, too unpredictable." He smiled. "Maybe we are, but we're also too stubborn to let people die when we can help." The human crew worked with stunning efficiency. They unloaded crate after crate of supplies. Protein bars, water purification tablets, emergency generators, and most remarkably, cases of something called glow sticks that they had apparently purchased from toy stores on their last stop. "For the children," explained Chen, the ship's engineer, as she demonstrated how to crack the plastic tubes to create light. "We figured if your species is bioluminescent, light might be important." The gesture was so simple, so thoughtful, that several Krillian parents began to weep. Within hours, the ship's corridors were dotted with the gentle green and blue glow of human toys, and for the first time in weeks, the younglings played instead of cried. Dr. Sarah Kim, the Esperanza's medical officer, worked 18 hours straight adapting human nutrition supplements for Krillian biology. When she finally created a mixture that restored the bioluminescence to a fading youngling, the entire medical bay erupted in celebration. "It's not perfect," she admitted to Vexera, exhaustion evident in her voice. "But it'll keep them alive until we can get you somewhere safe." "Somewhere safe?" Vexera asked. "Where could we possibly go? The Federation has rejected us. We have no home." Martinez, who had been directing the repair crews working on the Eternal Dawn's failing systems, overheard the conversation. He walked over, wiping his hands on his coveralls. "Earth," he said simply. "You'll come to Earth." The entire command center fell silent. Zalthor was the first to speak. But we're aliens. Your people fear aliens. Your entertainment broadcasts make that very clear." Martinez laughed, a warm sound that filled the room. "Our entertainment also shows zombies and vampires, but we still help sick people. Look, I won't lie to you. Some humans will be scared. Some will be suspicious. But most will see people in need and open their doors. It's what we do." "The Federation will not approve," Vexera warned. "They consider Earth a protectorate, not a full member. You don't have authority to grant asylum." "The Federation," Martinez replied with a grin, "can kiss my ass. Pardon my language." As the human crew continued their work, Vexera found herself watching them with growing amazement. They shared their personal rations with hungry Krillians. They played games with the younglings. They worked side by side with her engineers, teaching and learning in equal measure. When one of the human crew members, a young man named James, gave his personal jacket to an elderly Krillian who was shivering, Vexera couldn't contain her curiosity any longer. "Why?" she asked Martinez. "Why do this? You gain nothing. You risk everything. The Federation could punish Earth for this." Martinez was quiet for a long moment, then sat down beside her. "You want to know the truth. Humans have been the underdog for most of our history. We've been conquered, enslaved, nearly wiped out more times than I can count. But we survived because sometimes, somewhere, someone decided to help. A stranger shared food during a famine. A neighbor hid a family from persecution. A ship captain picked up survivors from the water." He looked around at his crew, pride evident in his eyes. "We remember those moments. They're carved into our souls, and we swore that if we ever made it to the stars, we'd be the ones doing the helping." As the Eternal Dawn's engines hummed back to life, powered by jerry-rigged human generators, Vexera felt something she hadn't experienced in months. Hope. Your Federation might have written you off, Martinez continued, standing up and preparing to return to his duties. But humans, we don't believe in lost causes. We believe in second chances. The repair work took 6 days. 6 days during which the human crew shared everything they had, worked until they dropped, and treated 10,000 desperate aliens not as strangers or burdens, but as friends. When the time came to begin the journey to Earth, the Esperanza took point, its battered hull leading the way like a shepherd guiding a lost flock home. As they entered hyperspace, Vexera stood beside Martinez on the bridge. Captain, I must ask one more time. Are you certain Earth will welcome us? Martinez nodded, his expression serious now. I won't lie to you, Commander. It won't be easy. There will be challenges, fears to overcome, prejudices to face. But there will also be people who open their homes, share their food, and treat your children like their own. Because that's what humans do when the universe turns its back on someone. We turn toward them. As the stars blurred into lines of light around them, Vexera allowed herself to believe. The universe had abandoned them. Yes, the Federation had written them off. But in the vast, cold darkness of space, they had found something unexpected. The warm light of human kindness. And sometimes, that light was enough to keep the darkness at bay. The awakening storm. The journey to Earth took 21 days through hyperspace, and with each passing hour, the bond between humans and Krillians grew stronger. The Esperanza's crew had established a rotation system, spending shifts aboard the Eternal Dawn to help with repairs, medical care, and simply providing companionship to a people who had lost everything. It was during one of these quiet moments, as Captain Martinez shared coffee with Commander Vexera in her ready room, that the first warning came. The Esperanza's communications officer, Lieutenant Tom Bradley, burst through the door with a face pale as moonlight. Captain, we've got incoming transmissions. Priority Alpha from Federation Command. Martinez set down his cup slowly. Let's hear it. The voice that filled the room was cold, mechanical, and utterly without mercy. Earth Vessel Esperanza, you are hereby ordered to halt your current trajectory and surrender the Krillian refugees to Federation custody. Your unauthorized rescue operation violates 17 interstellar protocols. Compliance is mandatory. Vexera's bioluminescence dimmed with fear. They found us. Martinez stood, his jaw set with determination. Tom, open a channel. Let me speak to these bureaucratic vultures. Channel open. Sir. Federation Command, this is Captain Miguel Martinez. I'm escorting 10,000 sentient beings who requested asylum. Last I checked, the right to life superseded your protocols. The response came swiftly. Captain Martinez, you lack the authority to grant asylum. Earth's protectorate status forbids independent diplomatic actions. You will surrender the Krillians immediately or face severe consequences. And what consequences would those be? Martinez asked, his voice dangerously calm. Economic sanctions, technology embargoes, possible expulsion from the galactic community. Martinez laughed, but there was no humor in it. You're threatening to punish Earth for showing basic decency, for doing what you should have done. The decision has been made, Captain. The Krillians were deemed non-viable for Federation resources. Their fate was sealed by cost-benefit analysis. Their fate, Martinez replied, is now in human hands. And we don't do cost-benefit analysis on lives. Esperanza out. He cut the transmission and turned to his bridge crew. Well, folks, looks like we're about to find out how much Earth values doing the right thing over playing politics. The next few hours were tense. Messages flew between Earth and the Federation, growing more heated with each exchange. Then, something remarkable happened. The first support message came from the cargo ship Montevideo, operating near Jupiter. Esperanza, this is Captain Reyes. Just heard the news. We're with you. bringing medical supplies and food. ETA 6 hours. Then came another. This is mining vessel Rocky Mountain. We got emergency shelters and equipment. On our way. Within hours, the communication channels were flooded. Ships from across human space began converging on their position. Cargo haulers, mining vessels, private yachts, even a few decommissioned military ships that had been converted to colony transports. Each one carried the same message. We stand with the Krillians. Dr. Kim, monitoring the incoming fleet data, shook her head in amazement. Captain, we got over 300 ships responding. They're calling themselves the Lifeline Fleet. Martinez smiled. That's humanity for you. Tell them we're in trouble, and they'll debate for years. Show them someone needs help, and they'll move heaven and earth. The Federation's response to this spontaneous mobilization was swift and panicked. High Counselor Six Theta himself appeared on the main screen, his crystalline form pulsing with agitation. This is madness, he declared. Earth is risking its entire future for a doomed species. Stand down immediately. But the response came not from Martins, but from Earth itself. President Sarah Chen appeared on a split screen, flanked by the united leaders of Earth's nations. High Counselor, she said, her voice steady and clear. Earth has made its position clear. The Krillians have requested asylum, and we have granted it. Any action against the refugee fleet will be considered an act of aggression against humanity. You don't have the authority. We have the authority of conscience, Chen interrupted. Something your Federation seems to have misplaced. Meanwhile, aboard the Eternal Dawn, remarkable things were happening. Human engineers worked alongside Krillian technicians, sharing knowledge and techniques. Children from both species played together, the humans teaching the Krillians games while learning to communicate through bioluminescent patterns. Young James, the crew member who had given away his jacket, had become particularly close with a Krillian youngling named Luxera. Despite the language barrier, they had developed an elaborate system of hand signals and light patterns to communicate. Look, James explained to his crewmates during a meal break. When Luxera flashes blue-green-blue, it means she's happy. Red-yellow means she's confused. It's like they speak in rainbows. This simple observation sparked an idea. Dr. Kim and the Krillian healers began working on a translation system based on the bioluminescent patterns. Within days, they had created a basic program that could interpret emotional states and simple concepts. The breakthrough came when Luxera, using the new system, managed to convey a complete sentence. Humans shine inside. The phrase spread throughout both ships, becoming a rallying cry for the growing bond between the species. As the convoy approached Earth, the number of supporting ships had grown to over 1,000. The Federation watched in stunned disbelief as humanity mobilized not with warships or threats, but with cargo holds full of supplies and hearts full of determination. The crisis reached its peak when Federation enforcement vessels appeared at the edge of the solar system. Their message was blunt. Surrender the Krillians or face military action. Martinez looked at his crew, then at the sea of human ships surrounding them. All vessels, this is Esperanza. The Federation is threatening force. Anyone who wants to leave, now's the time. No judgment, no shame. The response was immediate and unanimous. Not a single ship powered down. Instead, they formed a protective shell around the Eternal Dawn, their message clear. To get to the refugees, the Federation would have to go through them. But the confrontation never came. As the Federation fleet approached, something unexpected happened. Messages began flooding in from across the galaxy. The Altarians, themselves refugees taken in by humans decades ago, pledged their support. The Centauri Collective, remembering human aid during their plague years, threatened to withdraw from the Federation if force was used. Species after species, all remembering moments when humans had chosen compassion over protocol, began to stand with Earth. The High Counselor, faced with the potential collapse of Federation unity, made the only choice left. Stand down, he ordered his fleet. The Krillians may proceed to Earth. The celebration aboard the convoy was subdued but genuine. They had won, but more importantly, they had changed something fundamental in the galaxy's understanding of humanity. As Earth came into view, a blue marble hanging in the void, Vexera stood with Martinez on the observation deck. Below them, young James and Luxera watched together, their reflection in the viewport showing human and Krillian side by side. "You've started something," Vexera said quietly. "The Federation will never see humanity the same way again." Martinez nodded. "Good. Maybe it's time they learned what we're really about." "And what is that?" He smiled, watching as the first Krillian refugees prepared to step onto human soil. "That when the universe tells someone they don't matter, humans have a bad habit of disagreeing." Loudly, the landing at North American Spaceport was broadcast across the planet. As the first Krillians emerged, their bioluminescence flickering with nervous energy, they were met not with fear or hostility, but with cheers. Humans lined the walkways, holding signs that read "Welcome Home" in hastily learned Krillian script. Children ran forward with flowers. Medical teams stood ready with adapted nutrition supplements. Housing coordinators had already prepared temporary shelters in cities across the globe, each one designed to accommodate Krillian biology and customs. But the most powerful moment came when an elderly human woman, a refugee herself from Earth's last great war, approached Vexera. Without words, she took the commander's four-fingered hand in her wrinkled ones and smiled. "I know what it's like to lose everything," she said softly. "But you haven't lost it. You've found a new beginning." In the months that followed, the Krillians integrated into human society with surprising ease. Their bioluminescent abilities found applications in everything from medical diagnosis to artistic expression. Their children attended human schools, where they taught their classmates to communicate through light while learning to speak human languages. The Federation watched in stunned silence as humanity absorbed 10,000 aliens without hesitation, treating them not as burdens, but as new neighbors. Trade increased. Cultural exchange flourished. The primitive humans had shown the galaxy something it had forgotten. That strength wasn't measured in technology or protocol, but in the capacity to care for others. A year later, when the Federation offered Earth full membership, President Chen's response became legendary across the stars. "We'll join when you understand that every life is essential." Captain Martinez retired from active service, but remained close with the Krillian community. At the first anniversary celebration of their arrival, Vexera presented him with a gift, a crystal that glowed with captured Krillian bioluminescence. "This holds the light of every Krillian life you saved," she explained. "So you'll always remember." Martinez accepted it with tears in his eyes. "I don't need a reminder," he said. "Every time I see a Krillian child playing with a human child, every time I watch your people and mine working together, I remember. We didn't just save you. You saved us too." "How so?" "You reminded us who we are," he replied. "When the universe gets dark and cold, humans are the ones who build fires. And now, thanks to you, the whole galaxy knows it." As the celebration continued around them, human and Krillian together, the crystal pulsed with warm light. It was a small thing, perhaps, in the vast emptiness of space. But sometimes, small lights are all it takes to hold back the darkness. And in the years that followed, as more species found themselves abandoned by cold calculation and rescued by warm hearts, a new phrase spread across the galaxy. "When all seems lost, look for the humans. They shine inside." The universe had left the Krillians for dead, but humanity had given them something greater than survival. They had given them hope, home, and the knowledge that in the darkest void, there will always be someone willing to be the light. After all, that's what humans do. They rage against the dying of the light, and in doing so, they illuminate the universe itself.